Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cut the Crap webinar.
Hi, thanks for coming. I'm Dia from allthethingsido.com.
And I'm Angela J. Ford from angelajford.com.
They better remember that, huh?
Yeah, I try to make it easy, so you can just remember it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you just want to jump right into it, but today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to identify the excuses that are stopping you from achieving success. I kind of came up with everything that I've learned I've been working since I was like 15, and even college sometimes it was 2 jobs, and even up earlier this year it was 2 jobs in my blog. So it was one of those things where I thrive on being busy, but when you have so much to do all the time, you have to figure out how to make the most of that time. So that's kind of where my whole thought process and theories on time management and excuses kind of came from. So just to tell you a little bit about my background.
Great, that's really cool. And I'm the same way. I've always been a doer. I like to do lots and lots and lots of things. So at different times, I've had 4 jobs at one time and was in school full time, just a lot of crazy things. So I've had to develop a system to keep myself organized and productive, even when I don't feel like it, and especially when there's a time crunch. So I'll be sharing a little bit about that.
Awesome.
I guess we can go ahead and kick off.
Yes. All right. Are we good on the slides? Can you see them? So I'm just going to jump right in, and I took a survey on social media about a month ago, and I asked, what are your biggest distractions when it comes to working on your side hustle, and what are your biggest time management issues? So I'm pretty sure you can guess some of these, but I'm going to go through some of the most common answers that I got. Social media, promoting, finishing, consistency, lack of motivation, housework, family, depression and anxiety, Netflix, my personal favorite, sleep. So these are the answers that I kind of saw the most across the board, and I asked this on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you know what? The one thing about all this that I want to say, just so you know, is that all of it is totally normal. But there is one thing that these things all have in common, and that's you.
Yeah, I can't see your slides yet. Do you have your screen share up?
I think so. Let me check. Sorry about that.
Right. Double check on my end.
There we go. Are we good now?
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. All right. So basically, all the things that are the biggest distractions in your life boil down to this one common denominator, and that's you. You decide what takes up your time. You decide what you focus on. You decide what you make important. So that's why you need a system. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of jump into the first thing, which is how to plan your work sessions. I definitely advise that you start with a simple plan. You know, whenever you sit down to actually have that work session, decide what task you plan to work on. Don't sit down and say, I'm going to work and I'm going to get work done from 7 to 9 o'clock. You need to actually sit down with an objective. I would say not to try to think of more than 3 objectives for a certain work session. And you need to decide, like, once you have that objective, just decide what you hope to accomplish in that period of time. You need to pick the things that you really need to get done out of your organization system. So say if you use a planner or a checklist or an app like Todoist, and you just need to kind of look at that list and see, okay, these are the top 3 things that I need to get done. These are the things that I want to accomplish for that day. And so it may look something like finish this week's blog posts and graphics, email Joan about the JV webinar, run weekly traffic report. And it's just something that one of my old bosses used to always say is keep it simple, stupid. You don't need to create some like complicated to-do list for your work sessions. You just need to have an objective and a goal. What am I doing? What do I need? Do I have it? So whenever after you've made these, this list of the things that you want to get taken care of in this work session, this time that you've allowed yourself to have, you need to, before you actually sit down to do the work, you need to say, okay, do I have everything that I need? If I need to work on graphics, do I have the hard copies of the images or the digital copies of the images that I plan to alter? Do I have the email address for the person that I need to email? Do I have all the stuff lined up so that I'm not getting distracted, hopping off and going online to Google something and then falling down that Google rabbit hole is what I always call it. So before you start, go ahead and set these things up. And my very, very serious suggestion is just shut out everything. Don't hop from task. Don't have multiple windows open, which I know is so easy to do because you just wanted to respond to that comment on Facebook, or you wanted to answer that email, or you wanted to Google who said that quote, because it really goes with what you're writing about. Just put your phone away, turn everything on silent. If you need to Google something, Google and then go right back to work. Don't fall down that rabbit hole. And I think that that is one of the biggest productivity killers, is just allowing yourself to get distracted by things that start off with the right intentions. So one of the really big things that you can do is to automate your time. And when you go ahead and automate your time, what you're doing is saying, these are things that I can get done, and this is the most strategic way, and this is something that I do often, so I can just kind of streamline it. Now, I'll be totally honest with you, it can be a little overwhelming when you're starting out. There's so many options about what tools to use, what methods to use, and it can be sometimes a little bit of trial and error. But the thing is that you have to remember with automation tools like Hootsuite or Buffer or Sprout Social is that they're supposed to make your life easier. And while you're setting them up, they may be a little bit of a learning curve. If you're doing it for a while and it's actually just causing you more stress and anxiety and taking you more time, then it's probably not the right platform for you. So my favorite is actually Buffer. I started out using Hootsuite, and I've used MailChimp. I'm sorry, I'm talking about email. I've used Hootsuite and Sprout Social professionally, and I love Buffer so far. It's one of those things that, seriously, I used to spend about an hour and a half scheduling posts for the entire week, every Sunday night, just trying to schedule posts from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. of each day for that upcoming week. So I would be spending all of this time trying to make sure that I was constantly on social media, and it just got to the point where I was like, there's not even that much content in the world. And of course there is, but it wasn't something that seemed like it was making things easier. I felt like I could probably manually tweet as quickly as I was doing with Hootsuite. So just to tell you a little bit more about Buffer, I'm not currently an affiliate or anything, but it's just something that I definitely think is worth the investment. There is a free version. I actually go ahead and have the awesome version, which is only $10 a month. If you aren't making money from your website or your brand yet, I can see how that can be more of an investment than you may want to spend. But honestly, if you think about the time it saves you and that brand presence that it's building for you, it definitely can be worth it. Just for me, like if instead of spending like that 2 hours on Buffer, I might spend like 5 minutes a day filling out my Buffer. And like that is just so good. There's just so many, but we're going to get into all of the things that I love about it and why it's such a good automation tool. But yeah, there are different options for depending on what you want to do. One of my favorite things about actually using Buffer, this awesome plan, is it does let you schedule posts for Instagram on your desktop. This is great because Instagram is very, very, very picky with its rules. Like you can't have links in your post, and you can't, there's not an app that directly schedules for you automatically that I know of. And with this one, what you can do is go ahead and schedule the Instagram post on your buffer. And once you have, sorry, I need a drink of water. But once you have, once you schedule it on your buffer on your computer, it sends you an alert to tell you, hey, it's time to post this. And what's good about that is since you have all your other social media accounts on it, you can just pay that $10 and get the features for all of these instead of having to get like another app like Latergram to do this. So most bloggers will tell you to try to schedule 80 to 20% as far as content. And the 80 to 20 rule is basically you're going to publish 80% of other people's content and 20% of your own. So your feed isn't just always you. As far as I like to think that this is a little bit fluid, and it depends on what platform you're using. Say for Twitter, I might do about 50-50 because people aren't going to see what you post on Twitter because it's so rapidly moving. On Facebook, I tend to try to schedule one of my posts for every 2 that I post to something else, because the way my buffer is set up, it schedules 3 posts a day and on my Facebook. And this way it's like, okay, yeah, this is my brand, this is my blog, but here are some things that you will also relate to. Another one of the things that I really like about Buffer is the content inbox, and it basically allows you to select, I think it's up to 15 blogs on the Awesome plan that you can have, it pre-populates their RSS feeds, and you can just drag and drop it into your buffer so that it's scheduled to tweet. You don't have to go and look for this content. And I would definitely recommend that. It doesn't usually pull the Twitter handles, but go ahead and just take that extra second to tag that person in that tweet so they can see that you're sharing their work. And then they may go ahead and check out some of your stuff and share it as well. Another way to fill up your buffer is Pinterest. I notice it's pretty apparent if you're in the blogging world or even on the online business world that Pinterest is just kind of a huge powerhouse and a huge place to find things. And it's a great source to find inspiration as well as to find new content. And I will go on there. I make a point to just go on every night, Google my keyword terms and see what's out there that I haven't seen. And if it's something that I think would be valuable to my readers, I go ahead and add it to my buffer. Newsletters are also a great source of information to feed into your buffer. And what I mean by that is if you subscribe to, say, one newsletter from a collective resource like Medium or Bloglovin, then you'll actually be getting like 4 to 6 new posts in this one email that you can add to your buffer account. So you're not having to go and hunt and search. And then your older post is also a great way, because what Buffer does is it shows you what is done well, what you've tweeted in the past, and you can actually just click rebuffer and it'll be added back to your collective. Another one that I skipped was the plugin. And if you use Google Chrome and you get the Buffer plugin and you're on it, you just happen to stumble upon a blog post that you really enjoy, you go ahead, you click that link for the plugin, and you can automatically add it to your buffer from that page. And it's no headache. It's nothing too difficult. It's not planning it out. Whenever I used to use Hootsuite, if I were to just happen to find a blog post that I liked that I wanted to share with my readers, I just got in the habit of copying and posting the URL and putting them into a Google Doc. And it wasn't exactly like the most efficient use of time. I would copy all of these into my Google Doc of things to share on social media. And then later on that night or later on that next Sunday, I'd go through and have to go back to the website. And it was just kind of like adding an extra step. But with Buffer, it takes that step away. Now, the thing that a lot of people don't tend to realize, because when we talk about automation, it goes straight to the mindset of ConvertKit. I'm sorry. Well, spoiler alert, people go straight to social media when they hear automation, but actually social media isn't the only thing that you can automate. Email is something that you can definitely automate, and that's something you definitely should see about automating, because it opens up a whole different world of possibilities. Now, I just recently got on the ConvertKit bandwagon, and my only regret is that I did not do it sooner. Not only can you set up easy email sequences for new users and followers, you can set up emails to remind people of things like webinars, of courses. You can categorize and segment people. It lets you create very simple landing pages, and these aren't the best, most high-tech landing pages in the world, but they are somewhat customizable, and it's not an additional expense you have to worry about with something like Leadpages if you don't use it yet. And if you don't know what that is, Leadpages is just a website that creates custom landing pages for you. So you can create this landing page, which isn't a distraction, which isn't something that's on your main site, but it lets someone know about something that you're doing or that you have, and that they can get or access with their email address. It also integrates very, very well with WordPress, which I believe it also does really well with Squarespace. I'm a WordPress user, but I've heard that it integrates well with that as well. So yeah, some of my favorite things about it is the sequences, the landing pages, the easy sign-up forms. Like these, it literally, you can copy and paste every sign-up form you have. You can set it up one time, and every time you have a new giveaway or opt-in, you just copy and paste it, make a few edits, and it's seamless. Like it took me maybe 3 hours max to move everything over from MailChimp, including setting up all of my content upgrades and creating a brand new landing page for them. And it really is just worth the investment and the time. And it also helped me market my free email course a lot easier, and to follow up with people and to see where they were dropping off or where they were clicking, where it allows you to see things in a way that you can't see with other mail carriers. And I've used personally MailChimp and Constant Contact. I'm sorry, my mind went blank. I've used MailChimp and Constant Contact, and out of the three, it's definitely my favorite. So, okay, to move on from automation, and I promise I'm not plugging products here, but I'm using it and I love it, so I just thought I would share some of the reasons that I do. So you should definitely set up processes for things you do often. You should have a post-publish checkout list, or checklist. So whenever you publish a new blog post, you might have a list that says, okay, publish the blog post, then I need to share it on these social media platforms, then I need to add it to my blog post records. And for me, that's actually just a Google Sheet. I keep the name of the blog post, the URL, the date, and just any other notes that I need about it. Then I need to send a notification to my new subscribers. Then I want to share it a little bit further out on social media and to stumble upon Dig, Facebook groups, etc. So you need to kind of have that narrowed down, because if you have that simple checklist and you're just like, okay, bam, 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 this is what I need to do, then you're not sitting there scrambling saying, okay, okay, I put it over, I know I posted it on Instagram, but did I post it on Twitter yet? Did I put it in my buffer feed? Like, if you have this checklist of something that even seems so simple, it makes it even simpler to just have that clear cut. Now, if you're a blogger, you also need to have a pre-published checklist, which may be something like, go ahead and check the SEO, make sure you create good meta descriptions, run your blog post through Grammarly before you post it, read it out loud just to make sure it sounds right to you, make sure you create the graphics for each social media channel, that if you're doing a content upgrade, you've gone ahead and created it, and then you've also created the landing page and such that goes with it. So these are just kind of simple things that you do that if you have a checklist, you can probably get through them a lot quicker, and you can be a lot more sure that you can be more sure that you didn't miss anything, because then you have to go back and do it later, and that kind of takes away from the whole productivity thing. So success mind shift. So we're going to talk about the kinds of people the kinds of entrepreneurs out there. Like I mentioned earlier, any distraction you have in your life has in common. It has in common the one thing, and that's you. and you have to recognize your shortcoming. So in my eyes, there are a couple of different kinds of entrepreneurs, and we all get in our own way, So whatever, like, nobody's perfect. We all have our highs and our lows. So we're gonna start with the easily distracted. If you know you're gonna turn on Netflix if you work from home, don't work from home. Go to a cafe or a library. If you know having internet is a distraction, don't log into the Wi-Fi unless you need it. Write your drafts in Pages or Word. And so if you're that person who knows that you will get distracted, go ahead and just take yourself out of that dangerous situation. This is why alcoholics don't go to a bar. Don't put yourself in a situation that sets you up for failure. The next one is the chronic DIYer. No one is good at everything. If you aren't good at graphics, don't spend an hour creating one simple graphic. Outsource it. You can pay someone to do it, and you can pay someone to do the stuff you're bad at. And if you're not at the point where you have the income to pay for that sort of thing, there are tons of bloggers out there that will do a swap for you because what you're good at, they may be bad at. So if you can do really good sales page copy, tell them, hey, if you make this graphic for me, I will write your sales page copy and do a fair trade. Like you can there's ways to get around money as a productivity block. You don't need to spend all of your time creating something. If you're a crappy designer, don't try to be a designer. And one of my favorite quotes is, a jack of all trades is a master of none. You're not going to be good at everything. You're just going to spread yourself thin. The stress reliever. We all hate to have a full inbox, but cleaning out your inbox does not get people on your website. It doesn't make people buy your book. Checking your Instagram doesn't make people come in or email you to sponsor you. Don't spend all your time doing tasks that are just busy tasks that make you feel like you've been productive even if you haven't. And that's something that's so easy to do because we all always have so much to do and we're all so busy. But if you actually can stop and think, okay, is this a task that's just making me feel better, or is this a task that is actually going to accomplish something? Can I put this on hold to do something that's actually going to get me closer to my goal? And the next person is the overachiever. You want your business to explode, so you do everything everyone else is doing to make it happen. Mariah does 3 Facebook Lives a week. Melissa does 1 webinar a week. Mira does a Twitter chat each week. But none of them are doing all 3 of these things. And I know that that's all 3 M's, but I actually know these 3 people, and they all have like their different ways that they do things. But guess what? They're not trying to do them all. You find what works for you, and you do it. If you're spread too thin just trying to do what you see everyone else doing, you're going to fall on your face. The next person is the big picture person. The big picture person only focuses on the big idea. They're kind of the opposite of the stress reliever. They ignore the small steps and the mundane tasks like checking email. They spend all their time on goal achieving, and they ignore the stress relieving and house keeping tasks such as email and stuff. They let their emails pile up to the point where they're getting phone calls or even social media comments like, hey, I emailed you 2 weeks ago about this thing you said you'd do, but they were so busy thinking about this, like the big picture, that they forgot to do the small steps. So it's really important to find that balance. The next person is the yes man. We all want new opportunities. We all want people to like us, but sometimes you have to say no. Don't say yes to every opportunity. This will keep you sane and make you more authentic. I think that there's been so much talk in the past few years about how important it is to say no. And it really is, like, for your own sanity. You can't say yes to everything, or else you're going to end up losing what makes you you. And it's just going to drive you crazy. Look, we all get 24 hours a day. Don't overbook yourself. The excuse maker, well, the Wi-Fi is down, so I can't do blank. No, you can't schedule your tweets for the week. If that's what you set out to do and whatever's blocking you, buffer's down, the internet's not working, okay, you can't do that. But what you can do is you can take out a pen and paper and start writing the post for next week. Things are going to come up in life, but you have to work around them. You have to figure out, okay, I can't do this, but I can do that. Don't make excuses. Life will make plenty for you. Don't make them yourself. And the next one, which I think a lot of people might be able to also relate to, is the procrastinator. I work better under pressure. No, you don't. Get to work. You work quicker under pressure, but probably not better. Rush work is prone to mistakes. See, as someone who talks fast and has probably messed up her sentences several times while talking just now, the rushing is prone to mistakes, even though it's subconscious and I can't help it. But no, seriously, like, you have to think about it. What I always recommend is, if you know you're a bit of a procrastinator, wipe out the due date from your mind. If it's due on the 24th, you need to put that in your schedule as due on the 18th. You need to plan to work ahead. Set your work schedules ahead of time. Don't plan to make the blog post for tomorrow tonight. Like, plan ahead of time. And that way, when life pops up out of nowhere and things happen, you'll be ready to deal with it. Oh, and I'm sorry, I did forget one. The can't stop, won't stop her. I have work, yes, but you need to rest. Even Oprah and Gail are chilling on a boat right there. If Oprah can take a day off, so can you. It's super important to work. It's super important to not be lazy and to have drive, especially if you want to do things outside of your 9-to-5 or your everyday life. But you need to know that for your own health, your sanity, your creativity, it's important to take a break sometimes. And then, so basically what you really have to do, and I know it probably sounds like a lot because I just listed a bunch of different types of people, but you have to kind of combine these types in order to have the elements that you need to succeed. You need to know when to work, when to focus, when to push something down, when to step back, when to avoid toxic environments. You just kind of have to have that different mindset. So the mindset shift. You have a style of working that is best for you, but not best for every situation. Be adaptable. And that's kind of where all those types come down to, is you have to know when you need to let what part of you shine. If you are burnt out and on the brink of tears, that is when it's time for you to sit down. That is when it's time for you to call it a night and move on. So with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and take a deep breath and pass things back over to Angela.
Thanks so much, Dia. So I do have to admit, I am the procrastinator. I am that person that just, waits until the last minute. Like this afternoon, I was putting together my slides for this presentation. I'm not going to lie. So if there are any spelling errors or any mistakes, that's why. So, okay, so for my end, I want to go over 3 myths to success that are commonly known. And then I also want to talk through the 6 secrets of success that I actually learned when I was working a full-time job and when I just started freelancing and I was trying to do both. And I had a mentor who kind of guided me through the process. So I will talk through that. So success myth number 1. You have to be a morning person in order to be successful. This is false. So I know, like, the whole 5 a.m. club, getting up early, starting your day before anyone else gets up, and getting an hour of work done is a fantastic ideal. And if you're a morning person, I highly recommend it. But if you're not, like me, I'm a night owl, so I get much more productive in the evening. So I get a lot of my work done a lot later in the day. So if you get up in the morning and that's not when you're sharp and it's not when you're bright and it's not when you get your work done, don't feel like you have to be a morning person in order to be successful. You can certainly kind of rearrange your schedule and get more done during the evenings, or set aside time or an hour to get more done during those times. So that is myth number 1. Success myth number 2 is you have to be productive all the time. And Dia talks about this, like, you don't have to be on all the time. Take a break. It's not about doing all the things, which is, I love it, Dia, that's your website, all the things. So one of the things I tend to do a lot, and I've done ever since I was younger, I'm a doer. I like to do things all the time, and I like to be productive all the time. And I've had to remind myself that it's okay to sit back and pull up my iPad and play Clash of Clans or get on my Wii and play Mario Kart. Totally okay to do those things. But I used to have a lot of guilt about them because they weren't necessarily productive in a way that I thought was productive. But those things are productive. Gaming can be productive. Hear me out now. Just because it's something that you can do and it takes your mind off of the immediate and gives yourself a break. And you also come back to whatever you were doing with a fresh perspective. So keep that in mind when you feel like you have to focus on something until you get it done. Taking a break can actually be pretty productive for you, and you'll come back with a fresh mindset and a fresh perspective. Okay, so success myth number 3. You have to multitask in order to get a lot of things done in a small amount of time. This is actually a super popular one that I've heard, especially when I was first entering the workforce. They used to talk about all the time. They're like, okay, are you a multitasker? Because if you're a multitasker, then we want you on the team because you know how to get a ton of stuff done all at the same time, which is actually a terrible idea. As I found out when I started freelancing, one of the people that I worked with a gourmet food company in Canada. And before I was hired on, the CEO, he had a meeting with me via Skype and we were chatting through it. And he told me that he had a list of books that he wanted me to read before he kind of officially got me started. And that was really his onboarding process. And one of the first books that he gave me to read, or he told me to rent from the library to read, was called Getting Things Done. And so that was all about being very focused and intentional in what you're doing and getting task after task done one after the other instead of trying to work on all of them and little tiny pieces of them at the same time. It's kind of like if you have a puzzle and you have 5 puzzles that you need to do, you don't take them all out at the same time and mix all the pieces together and then try to figure it out. It just ends up taking it much longer and you'll be very confused and frustrated by the time you're done. You do it one at a time, or you section things out and you spend 10 minutes doing one and then 30 minutes over here and 15 minutes over here, and then you just repeat that until it's complete. So that is the rule of multitasking, and I'm also not a firm believer in multitasking at all. Okay, so with that, so those are the 3 myths. I want to roll into the 6 secrets of success that I've learned over the past 5 years that I've been balancing the act of doing a lot of different things, being a doer, working multiple jobs, going to school, and then also, starting my whole career as an entrepreneur. So number 1, first thing I ever learned was get accountable. It really helps you get more things done and find more time in your day if you can actually have someone that is going to be following up on you and being accountable. So my accountability person, the first year after I quit my job, my very first accountability person was my business coach. And she helped me because she gave me action items, things that I need to do, and then I had a time limit. So we meet up every 2 weeks via phone call, and she would ask me, okay, like last time we talked, we set these goals. Did you get those done? And then I would be able to say yes, and this was the result. And it made me feel really bad to say, no, I did nothing. Not because I was getting a punishment or anything. It just felt like, okay, well, why am I wasting everyone's time if I say that I'm going to do this and then I don't get it done? So being accountable to someone else besides yourself is very helpful in actually getting more done in less time. Okay, so number 2 is to block out your schedule. And this was something after I quit my full-time job. I found I had all of this time and it was quite glorious. I could do whatever I wanted. I could sleep in, I could go to the park, I could get 2-hour lunch breaks with my friends. I could go get coffee. It was fantastic. And I actually spent a lot of it just traveling. I went to Florida for 2 weeks just to hang out at the beach. It was awesome. But I also learned that during that time, I wanted to be productive. And the best way to do it was actually to block out my days and not just say, okay, first of all, I'm going to take my task list and I'm going to write a new blog post and I'm going to work on my novel. And then I'm going to schedule my social media posts. It was more like, okay, I'm going to get up. I normally get up at 7, and from 7 to 8, I like to spend that time having coffee. And while I'm having coffee, I also like to read something that's uplifting and encouraging and inspirational. So that's my coffee hour slash reading hour. And I'll read something inspirational for 30 minutes, and then I'll read a novel for 30 minutes. It's great. I love it. Helps me read all these books that authors keep sending to me to read, which is fantastic. I love it. And then from 8 to 9, I could choose to do something else, say like schedule out my social media posts and then check in and be active and engage on social media. And then from 9 to 12, I had that set aside for client work, and that just depended on what actual projects need to happen, and I would schedule at that time. So blocking out your schedule and putting those blocks of times around what you do really helps. And it also helped because I was also working on publishing my novel, The Five Warriors. And I had to spend a lot of dedicated time actually finishing it because I had written the first draft, I was done. But actually getting to the point where I was really cleaning it up and finishing that and getting it ready to publish was really hard. So blocking out my schedule helped a lot because I knew that, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at, 8 o'clock in the morning until 10:30, I was just working on the novel, and that was in the calendar. It was set. It was like a date, and I had to meet it, and that was what I had to do. So that's something that can help you if you block out your schedule with dates and then put in what you're actually going to do during those time frames. That will also help you be more productive. And then when those time frames are over, you move on to the next thing. You don't have to stay and just kind of dawdle and just hang out in that space and say, oh, well, maybe I spend another 30 minutes. Just move on. You can come back to it later and finish it up when you have extra time at the end of your day. Okay, success tip number 3, meet with others. So this is another really interesting one, and it can seem kind of counterproductive. I was really torn about doing this. So once I had a lot more time in my day to plan my schedule, one of the things I did was try to meet with other entrepreneurs and kind of talk to them and pick their brains and have coffee with them and just have an overall discussion. And it helped a lot because it was networking. It was also different because when you're working at a full-time job, then you have a team of people around you to work with, and that kind of helps you to think outside the box, to think about things from a different perspective. And you don't have that when you're a solopreneur or if you don't have a team yet. So if you're at the point where you're just sitting at home getting work done, and you don't have the opportunity to go out and work with a team yet, I highly recommend meeting with others, even if it's just for lunch or for coffee, just to get a break and just kind of brainstorm together. Okay, and number 3 kind of leads into number 4 as well, because number 4 is work with others in your niche. So this one is a little bit different because with this, you want to target people that are doing the same things you're doing. So if you're a writer, working with other writers is helpful. If you're a blogger, working with other bloggers, or if you're a web designer or a developer, just working with people that do the same thing that you do is very encouraging. I found that I started actually having co-working dates with other entrepreneurs in the local Nashville area, which is quite fun. We'll meet up and we'll set a block of time, whether that's 1 hour or 4 hours, where we'll just sit down and we'll just work together. And every now and then we'll have an idea come up and we'll discuss it real quick. And it helps because working with someone else, they have different views and different ideals and different perspectives on things. Perspective is one of my favorite words, so I've said that like 20 times now, so sorry for that. But they have different views on things, and they can help bring out ideals and creativity and really encourage you in the journey and the path that you're taking. So that's encouraging. I had several different blog posts that have actually been inspired by different co-working sessions that I've had with other fellow entrepreneurs, which is a lot of fun. So work with other people and, get inspired to be creative in your business and do things that you might not have done if you weren't working with others. And then along with working with others is collaboration. So like right now, Dia and I are collaborating together, and that's really awesome because this is, another something else that we're able to do because the two of us, we do different things, but we're able to come together on something like that. So collaboration, I would say that's also something that should go with number 4. Okay, and then number 5 is to actually have a plan. uh, when I first started freelancing, I really didn't have a plan. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so I went through quite a lot of things. I started out as a freelance writer. And then from there, I was like, no, I'm going to do more like marketing work. And then from there, I was like, oh, you know what? I can run like a full on marketing strategy business. It's going to be amazing. And then I was going to do websites. And then what I finally settled on is I actually focus on working with authors and writers. And here's how I do it. I do it through the education, and I have courses that are available, and I help them out with different aspects such as the website building and what that looks like. So I finally have like narrowed down and have my niche finally narrowed down. It's taken forever. And then the second thing I also recommend is having a plan. So having an overall business plan. So for the short term, where you want to see yourself, in 6 months, but then also where you want to see yourself in your business in 5 years. What does that look like? Are you going to have a whole huge business? Are you going to be managing a team? Is it just going to stay very small? Will you try to do a lot of one-on-one work? Are you going to impact the lives of 100 entrepreneurs, or 1,000, or 10,000? What does your reach look like? And then also having a plan for marketing, for getting the word out, and just being very consistent in your plan. I've noticed that as long as I have a plan, I'm being very consistent with carrying it out. It's excellent, and it really works. And it's like Dia said earlier when she was talking about the different entrepreneurs that aren't doing all the things. Like some of them have weekly webinars, some of them have tweet chats. There are different things that they're doing, but it's all part of their plan and is very consistent, so their audience knows what to expect from them. So no matter what you're doing with your project, whether it's something where you're serving others or it's a personal project, just remember to really focus in on having that plan and having those goals set and making sure what you're doing is leading up to those goals. Only because it's easy to get distracted when there's a lot going on in the entrepreneurial world. There's always something new popping up. And if, like, one of the things that I'm not such a huge fan of is live streaming. So people going on Facebook Live or like Instagram, and I know we're on YouTube Live right now, but just the live streaming of the everyday life, it's something that's really hard for me to really like or love. And so I don't do it at all. But that's also because it's not part of my plan. So when you see something new that comes up and you're trying to determine whether you should do it or not, think back to your plan and what goals you have. And, if it fits in there, then go for it, do it. But if it doesn't, then don't worry about it. Okay, which brings me to number 6, do what works best for you. And that goes right along with your goals and your plans. And you're unique and you're different, and the work that you do is important, and the world needs it. We need you and we need your work. And you're doing incredible work. And yes, there are different things that you can do to be more productive, to get more done faster. And I'd certainly hope that you'll take these tips and put them into action. But at the end of the day, you do have to do what works best for you. So if you're a morning person, get up in the morning and do your great work. If you're a night owl like me, you'll be staying up for quite a few more hours now, getting more work done. But you really do have to focus on what works best for you, and whether that's, like doing more in less time, or, working a little bit slower throughout the time that you're getting things done. And so with that, I do want to turn it over because Dia has something extra special for all of you that attended. A nice little freebie to help you manage your time. And I guess we can pull it back on video so you can see us.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, good. Wait, am I there?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yes, I actually am going to give you my Task Crusher worksheet. It's very simple, but it just will help you set down and have the most productive work sessions. I might be on mute. Were you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I
Okay.
think you still have your screen share up. I think that might be it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I can't see me.
Yes, yes, there you go. All right.
There we go.
Yeah, so that looks really good. I actually, when you sent me the link, I already downloaded it, so I was excited.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's super simple, but it just helps you sit down and be like, okay, this is what I'm focused on. So
Yes.
Hopefully that helps you out with the organization things for everyone out there watching.
Yeah, great. And if you're wondering how to access it, it is in the description on YouTube Live. So you should be able to see it. Just click over there and you can download that. Be great.
Okay, awesome. So in case you were wondering, just before we let you go, I am at allthethingsido.com. I know that's really long, but we will share it with you. And I'm Dia Darling, so.
That's all. Put that in the chat. Yes. That's awesome. Well, good. And I'm Angela J. Ford over at angelajford.com. Super easy to remember. And yeah, I'm going to take some time off the rest of the evening to go focus on writing. What about you, Dia?
I actually am probably going to be answering some emails because I've been so excited about this today. I have not really checked my email today, but I planned for that, so it's okay.
Good. Well, hopefully you have lots of wonderful ones.
Right. All right. Well, all right. Thank you guys so much. And thanks, Angela.
All right. Thank y'all for joining.